when you're finding yourself in those situations where you got to make comments or criticize or have an opinion about guys you're actually racing with.
Or friends.
Yeah, or friends, right? Like, for example, the Larson thing, right? That went down. And how did you choose to handle that on your show, right? So are you trying to, like, you got to be honest. You got to, hey, man, I feel this way. I feel the way I feel I'm right here. But are you also trying to figure out a way, is he listening to this show? Are you trying to use the show and your comments to sort of mend the fence? What's the deal?
All the above.
Yeah.
All the above. I always assume that everyone I'm talking about or talking good about is listening.
Yeah.
You just have to have that because, honestly, I felt like my job was it didn't matter who it was. I tried to call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
And there was many times I called myself a spade and said that I up when I should, I made a move I probably shouldn't have, right? I try my best to see it, subjectively, but I also know that, fans will see it however they want to see it, and it's not always going to align. And it's just my opinion, and I know I'm not always going to be right. That's for sure. But it's just my opinion. I have this platform to give my opinion, and I think that a lot of the fan uproar towards the end of the year, a lot of it was because I am opinionated. I do believe that I have more fans than I've ever had, by far. It's not close. However, the counter Denny Hamlin fans, the ones that don't like me at all, are louder than they've ever been. So it's just been more noise. But I do believe that it did what we hoped, and that was, build a platform, build a fan base, build a brand, and see where this thing goes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that would you say that the podcast has been a way to kind of put you over to the fan base, grow, like you say, man, I think you have gained more fans. I think people have gotten to know you better through the show. You can't help but learn really who somebody is when they're putting themselves out there like that, and people will choose to like or not like what they hear, right, and what they learn. Seems like that you've grown your fan base, but to your point, right, you've also stoked the fire a little bit with some of the people that don't like you. They're still listening. I think all of those things are great, right? I feel like some of our drivers, I'm not going to name any names, don't want any noise, right? They don't want to get near the noise. They don't want to get the noise. They don't want to ruffle any feathers, get anybody riled up. They just want to live this sort of quiet existence and go race a car in front of, be this megastar. But otherwise,
that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Do I think that it stunts the growth of the sport? I do.
Yeah.
But that's their individual, that they're staying true to who they are. Right, and believe me, I am being true to who I am.
Well, see,
I've been this way for a long time.
I know, but I'm going to compare a lot of what I saw at the end of the year, almost like wrestling promos and things like that. Right, you get out of the car after you win. I mean, you've just ran 500 laps at Bristol. You get out and really cut a wrestling promo. Which was one of the best things that happened all year long. I mean, I know you're witty, and I know you're pretty good at comebacks and talking shit. You've always kind of been that guy in your inner circle. You never really been publicly like that outwardly, right, to the fan base or to the industry. And I don't think it was it wasn't a bad thing. It was perfect, right? But you jump out of that car after racing all race long and cut a wrestling promo, and it was like, I mean, if I'm NASCAR, I'm sitting there going, holy shit, this is the greatest thing ever, right? We need this. This is what we need every week, right? A guy win a race, get out and say some cool shit, right? Whether he's going at his haters or whether he's saying something, completely positive toward his fans, whatever it is, right? You get, and so I feel like that the show. Did the show play a role in that, right, to allow you to sort of get more comfortable with, in that moment, right, in front of thousands or millions of people watching on TV, right? Were you more comfortable to do that because of this sort of newfound ability of communication and expressing yourself through your podcast?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think you'll see it quite a bit during the Netflix special when it comes out.
So that's another thing, man. and I don't want to tie all this to, we're not going to sit here and give we're not going to give the podcast all of this credit. But I've talked to Netflix people. They told me that you're like the easiest guy to get a hold of, to get to, everything they ask, yes, no problem, you got it.
My rule of thumb was very simple with them. You get everything you want, every access you want until I say no.
Yeah.
When it comes from in the car, on the cart, through the fans, into the bus, short of me going to the bathroom, whatever you want, you get it until I say no. Yeah. And they never put me, in my opinion, in a place where I was uncomfortable with them. So I just gave them all the access that they needed.
So I feel like, though, that I don't think that you were that eager to be that way, a couple years ago, right? What's different? You're podcasting, Netflix show, all access, whatever y'all need.
We're trying to build a sport.
I know, but you're busy. You're an owner. You got a million things to do, right? And now you're adding in like this. They're great things. They're promoting yourself and your partners, but we're just so used to drivers being very particular, selective, and you're doing everything and anything you can get your hands on. What's changed? Something changed.
Because what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
Gibbs fires me. Okay, well, fine. I'll go drive for myself.
Yeah.
I just think about what is the worst that can happen if I'm really true to myself.
Were you that way 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
Maybe not, probably not publicly.
Right.
Right? Because what
changed?
I think that, having the same sponsor for a really long time, kind of pushing the edge of like, what are they okay with and what are they not, right?
Took you that long to get there? Or
somewhat.
You're getting toward that. Well, you talked. You
said it. You're
we talked about it. You're not near retirement. You got several years left, but you can see it, right? And you're kind of like, who cares? I'm just gonna do what I want to do.
Level goes down for sure. And what is the worst that can happen? And I'm more publicly now myself than I was in private always.
Yes.
That's how it's been. And what we have found now is that the 11 car in particular, I'm not going to get into specifics, but we're doing as well sponsorship wise that we've been in a very, very long time. Yeah. And a lot of them, was partners that came in for a small little bit, loved the experience, loved who I was vocally with my podcasts. The Bristol stuff, they loved it.
Yeah.
And we're like, we're in for more. And so it's turned now into a very positive things where brands are wanting to be associated versus, the counter to that is a lot of people don't want to rock the boat because they don't want to disrupt the sponsors that they have. As far as like personal service deals and all that, we're in a better spot than I've ever been.
Right. Who at Gibbs is the person that say there's a concern? Who's calling you?
Joe.
So Joe does. All right. So I'm beyond past. Let's just get past the Chastain incident where y'all got penalized and all that. In the back half of the year, was there a moment where you felt like Joe and Gibbs appreciated the value of the podcast?
Yes, I think that people like Dave Alper certainly do. I mean, they listen for their own reasons each and every week. But Joe, do I think he's a podcast listener? Probably not, but he probably gets. There's a head of public relations at JGR that probably fills him in each week of like, is there anything we should be concerned? Here's anything we should be concerned about. Anything that a sponsor may call and ask you about X because Denny said Y, right? And so there was only one, and honestly, I can't even remember what it was, but he said to me, he's like, I was kind of a little bit worried when he said this, but the sponsors has not said anything about it. And so it's okay.